Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, you saw the title. We're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about how to start a homestead. Now, I've been homesteading, I'm 61. When I was a kid, Mom and Dad moved to Michigan. When I was a baby. Mom and Dad moved to Michigan because the jobs had dried up in eastern Kentucky, and they stayed there for 8 years, and they came back when I was 8 years old. Now, everybody I knew growing up had a garden. All of my kinfolk had a garden, had a homestead. Most of them had a homestead. All of my great uncles had a homestead. So anytime I went to their house, there was farm work to be done. We had a little half-acre homestead with my grandmother, and then my grandfather, Dad's mom and dad, had a 5-acre homestead. So homesteading has been a fact of life for me for 58 years, 56 years, 55 years, something like that. Okay? So I've been homesteading for a long time, back before they called it homesteading. Okay? It's what I call living an Appalachian lifestyle. You have a great big garden, you have animals that you slaughter in the fall, you have chickens, and you have great big gardens, and you work too. You work off the homestead. If you think that you're going to start a homestead on 5 or 10 acres, and you can homestead on a half acre, okay? But it's a lot easier to homestead on 2+. So you think you can quit your job and just homestead, but that ain't the fact. You still need health insurance, and you need all these other things that if you've got kids, you can't afford to go bareback on your health insurance. Just saying. So if you're going to homestead, we're going to go over just some things that you need to do to get started. I have worked with homesteaders that are college educated. Some of them in agriculture, some of them in other things. I'm a physicist, so I'm college educated. I've worked with homesteaders that didn't even finish high school. And let me tell you, you don't need a college education to be a homesteader. Okay? You don't need a college education. Being able to read good and understand what you read, that would help, because there are some great reference materials out there for you folks that are homesteading. So let's get into what you need to do when you first start your homestead. I'm only going to start with after you've found your property, you've bought it, you're going to move there, what do you need to do? Okay? The very first thing you need to do when you get to your homestead, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to establish a place to live, okay? Get your place to live established. If you don't do anything else on your homestead, you've got to get your place to live established. Doing all the other stuff takes a lot of time, all right? I'm just going to tell you, everything on your homestead is going to take a lot of time. Don't think that you're going to get everything up and going and think you're Joel Salatin in a year. It's not going to happen, okay? So, first off, you get your place. And while you're building your house, or if you bought a place that's got a house already, don't plant anything that first year. You might plant some flower beds and some beds around your house, maybe a few little raised beds around your house, okay? But don't go out on your property and plant anything. I want you to take that year and assess your property, look at where there's accessible water, look at the low-lying areas, look at the elevated areas, okay? Notice where the hills are, where the slopes are. Notice where the sun is and how long it stays in one spot. Those are important things on your homestead. You need to get used to the way the land lays. The first year is good for clearing. Okay? Leave wide margins because you got wildlife. Leave some wide margins for the wildlife, the squirrels and the possums and the raccoons, and they need your help too. Okay? You're their steward now. You've got a piece of property, you own it, you're a steward of the land. It doesn't mean that you kill off all your wildlife. if you give the wildlife plenty to eat, they leave your stuff alone, for the most part. For the most part. You got to secure your chickens and things like that anyway, or else the raccoons will get them. That's just the way it is. But take that first year and look at all the things you've got. Assess all the trees. Figure out what they are. All right. Some trees are good for certain things. If you've got black locust, you've got a living fence post. Okay. You've got a living fence post. You can cut off that black locust tree and cut it into fence posts, and more will grow up beside it. Okay, black locust trees are great for fence posts. So assess all your trees. Notice where your walnut trees are. Notice where your maple trees are. Maple trees are a source of syrup. You don't want to go cutting down every maple tree or every walnut tree or go clear cutting everything. That's not what you want to do. You know, I see a lot of homesteaders move to a place and they'll hire a bulldozer and they just come in and cut it all down, make it flat land. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Those trees are a valuable resource, whether they're fuel or food. Okay? They're a valuable resource. Now, you got to have enough room to have a garden. So you need to take that year and evaluate your space. A place where a bunch of trees have been going are not always the best place for a garden. We call those new grounds in Appalachia. So after you've taken a year and assessed everything, then you're ready to start clearing stuff off. At that point, you're ready to start cutting down trees. You can cut down things like these old bushes. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of old bushes and stuff. Around my homestead, I've got this wild honeysuckle. It's an invasive bush. I could spend a year just cutting down the wild honeysuckle, okay? So that's something that needs to go. If you've got stuff that you know needs to go, sure, go ahead and get at it that first year. That's a good opportunity. And plan where you want your garden. You'll need to clear off and till your garden space if you're going to do till. Some people decide that they don't want to do till, they want to do deep mulch, and there are a whole bunch of ways, and you have to decide those things, and you can't decide them knee-jerk. If you decide them knee-jerk, you make yourself a lot more work and a lot more problems. For example, I decided knee-jerk one time that I was going to use landscape fabric and plant in it. Well, my old back is just too sore to do that. So I put down this landscape fabric and I couldn't plant in it. My back was I had to get down on my hands and knees and crawl around. I couldn't bend over to plant in it. So what wound up happening is I'm going to have to pull it up. Well, the weeds and stuff grew up around it, so that's made my work 3 times harder. I would have been a lot better to have plowed that spot and did my regular row crop garden right there. Okay? Does that make sense? So take your time, look at what you got, assess yourself, assess your limitations, and lay out your garden. Decide what it is you're going to plant. The wintertime is a great time to decide what do I want to plant. Around here, the big 3 are beans, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, squash, tomatoes, eggplant, okay? We plant lettuces in the spring. We plant onions. We don't buy onions. We have not bought an onion in forever. Every now and then we'll buy a fresh onion if we need one for on a hamburger. But other than that, we've got onions in the freezer, okay? So we don't buy onions. We don't buy sweet potatoes. We don't buy potatoes. All right? All that stuff is already here. So plan your garden about what it is that you want to do. And then look at the other places. Where are you going to have a pasture? Where are you going to have this? What kind of animals do you want to have? How many animals can you have based on the pasture that's there? Okay? Those are things that you've got to assess in that first year. Now, in the second year, I can't stress this enough. You need to study about permaculture. Over that first year in the winter when there's downtime, be reading everything you can about permaculture. Permaculture is going to be something that's good to help you decide about where you want fruit trees and that kind of thing. Fruit trees need a place. Don't put your fruit trees down in a valley. Okay, a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll put the fruit trees down in the valley. Plant my garden up on top. Well, if you put the fruit trees down in the valley, the spring frost stays down in there and it's colder. Put your fruit trees up on the hill where the sun comes up sooner. Okay? As long as it's well drained. Well drained, if you live in a temperate climate, well drained is what your trees actually need. They don't need to be down in the valley with the cold in the spring. That's not what they need. So read about trees. Read about permaculture. You'll want to establish your fruit orchard first. Okay? Those are the things that take the longest. Establish your fruit orchard first. A good fruit tree will last 40 or 50 years and provide you with bushels of fruit. But you have to have it in the right spot or else it won't thrive. Okay, so study about fruit trees and get your first fruit trees planted in that second year. Also, you've got your garden. You're going to plant your garden in this year. This second year is going to be very eventful. So you can plant your garden in that second year, and I recommend getting small animals. Not goats, not sheep, look, I'm going to tell you something about sheep. When a sheep is first born, it raises its little head up and it looks around. It's looking for a place to die. Okay? Sheep are hard to keep alive. I'm just putting that out there. Sheep are hard to keep alive. It's just one of those things. Oh, my leg's cramping. So in this first year, get small animals. Maybe rabbits. Get 8 or 10 rabbits. And get them in a nice hutch out back and raise rabbits that first year. Or raise chickens. Chickens are a nice one. Ducks are a little harder. Ducks and geese are a little harder. In my opinion, there's nothing worse than goose poop. Okay? Old slimy goose poop. There's nothing worse than that. So, my meanderings would be to meander to chickens. You'll get used to the life and death and that's a good thing to get started with because things are going to die on your homestead. And you've got to get used to that. So plan on chickens. Plan on something to harvest. Rabbits or chickens are good harvest creatures for you to practice your skills. If you can harvest a chicken, you can harvest most anything. It's a little different because they're so small. But harvesting a rabbit or a chicken, the skinning process, the gutting process is all pretty much the same as gutting a larger animal. So raise some rabbits and chickens that first year. Raise your garden, and you'll have some valuable chicken poop for the next year. Don't put chicken poop on your garden the first year. You'll burn your garden up. So raise your garden. Then in the fall, when everything's coming in, because everything comes in almost at once, okay? When everything's coming in, then's the time that you learn other skills. You need to learn how to preserve your harvest. You need to learn how to freeze, how to can, okay? Does that make sense? How to butcher. Those kinds of things are skills that you learn in that second year. And let me tell you, you're going to fail at some of them. Okay, especially coleslaw, or not coleslaw, but sauerkraut. We failed at sauerkraut 2 years in a row. I don't know what happened, but how do you fail at sauerkraut? Well, somehow you do. So you're going to fail at things. Some of your jars are not going to seal. You need to learn how to dehydrate. You need to learn all those things. And if you do it on a small scale that second year, then you can start to scale up. You can start to look at your garden as a means of cutting your grocery bill. Look, if it costs you more to raise your garden than it does to go to the grocery store, what are you raising a garden for? Okay? Probably because you want food that you know what's in it. Now the winter of that second year is very important, because what you're doing is you're learning how to take care of your livestock in winter. Okay? You're learning how to take care of those chickens and rabbits in winter, because that's a whole different animal than taking care of them in the summer. Summertime, the living's easy. Okay? You know that old song? The living's easy, the cotton's high. You know, summertime is a easy time on the homestead. It's a busy time, but it's an easy time. The winter is a little tougher. When you're raising animals, winter chores are tougher. Everything's tougher at 20 degrees, okay? I've got multiple sclerosis, so everything's tough for me at 90 degrees. But everything's tougher still at 20 degrees than it is at 90. So you got to get ready for that. You've got an education coming. Also in the winter is that great opportunity for you to learn how to make the most nutritious, delicious meals you ever made with those vegetables and meat that you put up. Okay? The wintertime is when you learn all the new recipes, because in the summertime you're eating fresh. Okay? We don't preserve summer squash, we eat it. Okay? We don't preserve zucchini, we eat it. We eat a lot of corn in the summer. We eat a lot of tomatoes in the summer. Okay? We eat a lot of fresh stuff in the summer. That's what we do. A lot of lettuces, a lot of greens, a lot of that kind of stuff in the summer. In the winter, you're eating a lot of root vegetables, rices, stored fruits, dehydrated stuff, and there's a special knack to cooking with that. And I'm going to tell you, a dehydrated tomato in a stew beats a hothouse tomato that you bought at the store in January. Let me tell you, there's so much flavor in a dehydrated Roma tomato or a dehydrated Cherokee Purple that you grew on your homestead that you just won't want the vegetables in the grocery store. You just won't. The taste is no comparison. So in the winter is that opportunity to you take care of your animals, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a day. You go out and make sure they got water and the food and they're doing okay, and the rest of the time, as far as a homesteader goes, he doesn't have as many obligations. Nothing's growing, the weeds aren't growing. This is the time, the winter time is the time when you cut brush, you cut firewood, you do the things around that have to get done, and you read a lot. I love to read books. I love to read, I've got a book from Joel Salatin. I've got a book from this one and that one. I've got a book called The Modern Homesteader. I've got a book called Homesteading Basics. I read those books, and I've about read them all to where I about know everything in them. You know, I've been at this a long, long, long time. I had a book called An Acre in Serenity. That was one of the best homesteading books I ever read. I can't find it anywhere. I can't even find a reference to it online, and I've lost my copy, so I don't know. So you need to read, educate. The more you learn, the more you're ready for the bigger things. In the third year, you can start putting in your fences and getting ready for the larger animals. I recommend starting with something easy, maybe geese. Geese are pretty easy, and they're not totally predator proof, but not many predators mess with them. Okay, we've got some foxes and some coyotes around here that would mess with a goose, but most of the geese are tough, so they won't mess with them. And new geese, the geese that you grow on your homestead, are not like Canadian geese. They won't fly away. Okay, they're great big and fat, and they're not going to fly away. They just walk around and eat grass. That's what they do. They eat grass. Geese are grazers, and they make a lot of meat. A good goose, 25 pounds, a 22 pounder, you know, is a great meal. Okay, so Geese would be a good scale up in that third year. Get your fences in. Put in regular fences, like you're going to have fences for goats or sheep or whatever. Run geese in them. Then, after you get your geese done in the next year, then turn around and get sheep or goats. Sheep or goats are a lot easier. A pygmy sheep, or pygmy goat rather, pygmy goat is probably one of the easiest to raise. The fences don't have to be 7 foot tall. They're generally pretty docile. They're a meat goat. So you get one raised up year old and it's going to give you 30 pounds of meat. All right, it's not going to give you a lot of meat. 30 pounds of meat's a lot of meat. That's 15 meals at a ½ pound apiece. Okay, for 2 people. That's 15 meals. That's half a month. One pygmy goat. And they eat grass and they eat browse. So you can take your pygmy goats and put them in there where that honeysuckle is, and they'll take care of it. Okay? You can scale up. Now, full-size goats can be dangerous. Goats with horns can be dangerous. Pygmy goats can be dangerous with their little horns. Those horns can be sharp as a bar. Naturally polled animals is nice, but you can't always get polled animals. And the horns are handles. You can hang on to them. But be wary of your kids out around larger livestock. Okay? Even be wary of your kids around rabbits and chickens. A chicken can bite a finger. They'll bite a piece out of you. Okay? An old rooster come up and bite a piece out of you. Rabbit, bite a piece out of you. So be wary of your kids around that stuff, but get your kids out into that. Okay? Get them in the dirt. It's one of the best things you can ever do. Finally, if you are going to start this homesteading lifestyle, the best thing you can do for yourself is when you get to your homestead, find other people that are doing what you're doing. When you go to buy your sheep or goats or chickens or whatever it is you're buying, and you're buying them from somebody, pigs, and you're buying them from somebody, get to know them. Ask them, can I call you if I've got a question, if something's going on? You know, somebody that's been raising pigs for 8 years knows a lot about pigs. Okay? Somebody that's been raising sheep for a lot of years knows a lot about sheep. They can help you. You know, get them to come to your place and evaluate your pasture. Get them to give you suggestions about what you need. They'll be glad to do that to sell you livestock. Okay? That's how they pay for their feed for the winter. They sell you livestock. So they'll be glad to come and look at your place, let you call and ask them questions, and they can give you advice. You know, we need one another. You need to connect with other people that are living this lifestyle. That's just one of those things. There's a lot of information to be had by people that have been in this lifestyle for a long time. And finally, you need to know that nothing's going to happen fast. Okay? Everything on your homestead takes a long time. In other words, I started a tractor shed, and I built it. I worked on it for 4 months while I was doing the other stuff on the homestead too. But I've worked on it for 4 months, and I've got it about a third of the way done. I've got 2 stalls of it under roof, but then we've had something in the family, and I can't get back to it. Those things are going to happen. You have to let yourself, give yourself grace, okay? Give yourself grace. Stuff's going to happen, and you're not going to be able to complete tasks. Well, you know, that task will still be there when it's time. The only problem is if you see that coming, you might need to get rid of your livestock. Okay, we've got rid of all of our livestock. We don't have nothing right now. I got 2 cats, 2 outdoor barn cats. But other than that, I got nothing else. And I am so glad that's the way it is. So you got to anticipate the things coming down the road as much as you can. Okay? And give yourself some grace. You're going to fail at stuff. You're going to do stuff. You're going to take longer to do things that you've never done before. Okay? If you've done something 50 times, you get a lot faster at it. If you've never done it before, you're slow. Way slow. And if you go too fast, you screw it up. And then you got to start over. Okay? That stuff happens. Everything on your homestead, a well-oiled homestead, is not really where it needs to be 12 years down the road. Okay? It's going to take you 10, 12, 15 years. You know, nut trees don't start providing nuts till 15 years down the road. Okay? Your homestead's going to take a long time. Your typical tree, apple tree, you're going to plant it. It's going to be a 1-year seedling or 2-year seedling. You're not going to get a fruit off of it for the first 5 to 7 years. Okay, so everything on your homestead is going to take a long, long, long time. Be prepared for that. Take your time. It's a labor of love. It's not a labor of hurry. Hurry, hurry, hurry is not the lifestyle. Okay, that's the beautiful thing about this lifestyle. Everybody else out there is in a hurry. Hurry, hurry, I've got to have this, I got to do that, I got to have the latest, You don't have to have all that to be happy. Crystal and I are probably happier than we ever were, and our life is slow, slow, slow. Okay? Take time to find the thing you love and do it. If homesteading is something you love, not many people are cut out for this lifestyle. But the ones who are, they love it. And I love it. So, do what you love. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff every week, sometimes 1, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, lately, we've only been able to get 1 or 2 a week. So, that's where we're at. It's just where it is. All right. Love you all.